Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another unboxing component video for the Terror Below. So if you're looking at this and it looks oddly familiar, this is very reminiscent of the Tremors movies, which are basically these guys are out in the desert area in this little town, and the premise of this game is basically the same. You're trying to survive and or destroy these giant bug-like creatures, these worms. But as you make more noise, they get attracted to you or away from you, depending on where your noise is at. And that's kind of the goal of the game. The movie, though, they're just more or less trying to survive. This one, you're actually trying to harvest some of their eggs as well. There's a couple different victories. So this is actually a very interesting game. So I'm going to look at the board first before we actually jump into the instructions and look at the components. So you're going to get this big, giant, folded out board. It's going to be bigger than what I can probably really show off. So it's going to be a shape of this giant egg, which is really cool. Yeah, so here's this giant board you get. You're going to have a spot down here where you have the different worms. Spots up at the top where you have some different resources or different objectives you're trying to do. Because depending on what you do, you get different objectives that get you different points. And then... Alright, this is in my way. So on this grid, you're going to have some numbers. You have some blues, 1 through 6, and some red, 1 through 6. They're going to determine various movement points. Now, we can also flip this over, which is really neat. This is actually a double-sided board then. Ooh, and the top folded in. And then the double-sided board, it just adds this giant crater in here and a giant sinkhole up at the top. Otherwise, it plays the exact same. It just also has a ramping mechanic. So if you want to try and get over them holes, you're going to have special rules for that. And it's going to show them down here. So you can try and ramp over drive your little car over there. It's essentially just to kind of add a little bit more difficulty. Because then you can't just go straight across the board. You have to go all the way around or try and jump this chasm. Alright, so I'm going to look at the book here and kind of see what we got here. So we have kind of like a classified document, which is really cool. The story, I'm not going to get into too much. So there's a lot of setup in this game, but once you've played it once or so, maybe twice, you'll have, the setup's not as bad as it looks. It's essentially just placing all your different decks where they go. So you're going to have... depending on what you're doing, you're going to have various buildings that you put in specific locations. There are different areas you can go. So you get different cards here, contracts or goals that are going to tell you drop off this item to this location, or these eggs to this location. And you gain bonus points for delivering to certain areas. You deliver them just wherever you want. You still gain a bonus, like the hospital heals. The police station gives you guns. The general store will give you an item card. So depending on where you take your eggs to drop stuff off, you can get better items to be able to fight the worms. Or you get more points, victory points for the end of the game, if you get certain ones. Now, if you play later games, you have the option of putting these in different orders instead of always having them in the same spot, which is kind of neat because that kind of changes up the game a little bit. So you're also going to have some different decks to go through. We'll just kind of go through them as we get to each one. So here you have a different type of worm, and there's a bunch of different worm cards, and they're going to explain where they go. I'm just going to kind of just jump through the book quick, and I'll sort of explain some of the stuff as we go along. But worms say they tell you what location they go. So it goes in spot 3, 2, and that's the pattern that it goes into. So you drop an egg there, with a little token saying where it's at, and you put a little rubble around it, and then the rubble blocks your path. So like after the game is kind of set up, this is kind of maybe how your board starts off. You have these 4 eggs and well, there's little stones sticking around. So you have to spend action points to get rid of the rubble, so you can't just drive over rocks. So stuff that slows you down as well. Here we have our turn sequence. So your turn sequence, first thing you want to do is play a vehicle. Which you have a bunch of different points, different things in here. So it's going to tell you how many action points you get to spend, which is how many different points. So basically, the bigger the vehicle, the more you can move around and do stuff. But the smaller the vehicle, the smaller you do it. The other thing it's going to do, it might have a special ability, and it's going to have a distraction. So the distraction is the first thing you do is you resolve. This is going to, you pick one of your monsters and you're going to move it there. So if I'm setting up the board here, and I have this Screamer, and I have a token for him. I'm just going to use token number 1. So he starts at spot number 5. Sorry, number 5, number 3. So he starts right there. So that's where he's going to be on the board. And if I played this bicycle, and the one I'm going to play is going to be different. So it's going to have the same 3 costs and same effect, but its distraction ability is going to be the same. So you pick on these spots which one you're going to play them on. So if I play them on this monster, so it's kind of whichever monster you want to activate. And whichever way you distract them, either you can be leading them away from where you are, so you don't have to deal with them. You could lead them towards another player, or you could lead them towards, or like towards you even. Maybe you want to fight that one. Well, this does is has little arrows on there, so it has a down 1 and over right. So that moves this monster down 1 space and over right. So that repositions them. So that's how those work. And then different distractions have different things. Like this one has down 3 times. So it just depends on what they all do. And then at this point, yeah, so you resolve the play card, and you do its special ability. So some cards have special abilities. So like, the example here, the bicycle is I'm going to say, play a vehicle card face down as a distraction. So then you would take another card from your deck, and you'd play it face down on there. So now there's 2 distractions on there. So the bicycle was like, it's not really helpful. Then you did do whatever your actions are. So this gave you 3 actions for the bicycle. So your different actions is you can move orthogonally, which is up, down, left, or right. You can't move diagonal. You cannot move into a space containing rubble. You cannot move through a space with another player. Or you can move through a space with another player, but you can't end on their spot. So it's showing this one, like your car could either move up 2 through that one or 2 this way, but you can't end on the rubble. Then you may ramp another player. If another player's adjacent to yours, you may jump over their piece as long as it's an empty space. You could, jump over. So that's kind of fun there too, but only if there's no rubble on the other side. Your other options, you can remove 1 rubble and you add it to your collection. So if you ever collect 3 rubble, you immediately discard them to the general supply and you draw a weapon or item card. So not only does removing the rubble let you move quicker along the open desert, it also gets you item and weapon cards, so it does help to spend time picking those up. You can pick up all eggs in your area, so you can pick up 1 rubble but many eggs, or you can deliver 1 egg. So if you get to one of the areas, you get a deliver. So So if you just bring it to the police station, you get one, and then you get a special thing for dropping it off there. But if you're completing this particular mission, this bounty, which says deliver this purple egg to the police station, you specifically bring a purple egg there, you get this card which gives you 3 extra VP, which is really great. Otherwise, you just get one, and then if you deliver them to certain areas, general stores, you get an item card, motels get you VP, police get you weapon cards, the government facility, you get a bounty card from the line or from the top of the deck, which is specifically for you. So normally the very top row up of those little money bags, that's the 4 active bounties, which all players have access to, but you can get these special government ones, which give you one that only you can complete, so that way no one else can take it away from you. Or you can do the hospital. You can bring a dead character from your squad back to life. We haven't gotten to those yet. And you have resolve special abilities. Yeah, so high number cards have negative abilities. Low numbers have positive. Depending on what your definition is. Then we have weapon item cards. You just do various things that you do stuff, and then you refill your hand to 3 cards. You draw 3 till you have 3 vehicle cards. So in case you played this and you played 2 cards, now you get a 3rd one back. Or if you played something else. And then that's basically your turn. So you spend your turn, you play 1 vehicle, you move your actions. So let's say instead of the bicycle, I played this pickup truck. It's going to let me do the downing over anyhow, so he would have moved to the same spot, but now I get 5 movement points. So that's definitely, should get you more options. But yeah, they usually, again, some of the bigger ones have more negative effects. Then after you've done all your different actions, picked up rubble, dropped off eggs, done all that stuff, then you check to see if the worm attacks. So on the worm card, it's going to have a couple other things. So this is just its initial position. This is what happens when it drops in. It drops eggs in those highlighted. Its egg goes in the middle, and then it drops lines in there. It's also its attack pattern. So when you have 3 distractions on here, it's going to attack wherever that line is. So currently right now I had 2. So now if the next player plays 1 more card here, at the end of the turn, wherever that ends up, he's going to attack. So he's going to drop another egg, which is how you get more eggs out. He's going to drop more rubble, which you can only have 2 per space. But he's also going to hit any of the player characters that are in the way. So this might be a thing of like, you might choose to play something that moves him into your area, or away from your area, or that. Or you might ignore this and be like, I don't want him to attack yet, and you might pick one of the other 2. But inevitably, all the different monsters, all the different worms, are all going to have enough distraction cards, and then one of them's going to have to attack. And then, okay, that one attacks, you draw a new worm, or you get rid of its cards, and then you get to start playing them over, but the other 2 will still be sitting there full. So at some point, they're going to eventually activate regardless. And then when they attack in that line. Anyone that's in there has to then fight them. So hunting a worm. So if a pawn is caught in a worm's attack, you have the opportunity to attack with any weapons you acquire. But if you're unsuccessful, your leader dies. Multiple players may be caught in the same attack. If this is the case, the last player to take a turn has opportunity, followed by the next player. So that means if currently your turn, you have the opportunity to try and kill it first, then the next player, and you can slowly weaken it over turns. So you don't have to do like this 7 damage all in one turn. I believe. I don't think they heal. I think you put damage on them, pretty sure. Combined total damage dealt to a worm by all players caught in the attack equal to or higher than it once you defeated a worm. All players are saved. Rubble and eggs are still placed as usual. So, like, here it's showing that they're going to play these different things, which are going to give him, Worm has 7 health. She plays her hunting rifle as her roll 2 dice, and the damage dealt equal to higher. She rolls a 5, decides to keep it. And then she plays a pistol, which gets 2 damage. Gives her 7, she defeats the worm. And then she does, other effects. The player that got the killing blow receives credit for defeating the worm. So there's also the downside. If there's multiple people caught in there, yes, they can help you defeat it so you don't die. But if they're the second or third player, they might end up getting the points for killing it if you can't. For any players caught in the worm attack, they cannot defeat their leader's kill. Drop all rubble and eggs you are carrying in your current space. Any active item, weapon, or space up near you is also discarded. Then remove your player pawn from the board. So dying has a penalty, but you basically lose all your stuff that you're currently carrying. So you don't want to hoard eggs and be like, I'm going to go drop off all 10 eggs at once that I found. No, you're probably going to want to run and drop off eggs every, maybe 1, maybe 2 or so. I know sometimes you might want to save them up for the bounties to gain better VP, but it might be better just to drop off 1, get 1 VP, maybe get an item or heal. Alright, so yes, you have to kill them all in 1 turn. They do not have health. Game ends when you reach 20 victory points, or if an entire player's squad is killed, they are eliminated from the game. All other players receive 1 full turn. If they're still alive, the player with the most VP wins. So if someone dies completely, then everyone only has to play 1 more round, try and just maybe see if they can drop stuff off, do whatever. Then there's some options for some 2-player variants. Advanced stuff, like I said, the location. There's a starting setup. There's actually starting cards for the worms. You can choose to do different ones. The optional canyon side, which has some different things. There's a solo mode. Special solo scenarios. So there's that, and then there's the appendix, which you're going to go through. And that is all of that. So, yeah, it's a fairly quick, I don't want to say quick game. Depends on how you play it. If you're too conservative and you're not letting the worms attack enough, which is what I found out when I played it, is then the eggs aren't dropping enough and you're taking forever to do stuff. And it might also depend on what worms are out, because depending on what worms are out, depends on what colored eggs you're getting and stuff like that. So let's look at some of the components. So first of all, we're going to have all these eggs. And there's a bunch of them, so I'm just going to show off 1 of each. So we're going to get these little plastic eggs, which just sit really nicely, that little flat bottoms. Whoops. Yeah, so they're just little tiny plastic eggs of 4 different colors. Purple, blue, red, and orange. And you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of each. I just have them in these little plastic containers right now, so I can grab them quick. You're also going to get a ton of this rubble. Just that you can only have two per each on your spots, so then you're going to on each location, so they're going to go pretty quick. You're going to get a bunch of these victory point counters. 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars. Plus these target tokens, which are going to show where your targets are. So there's 1, 2, and 3 to match each spot on the board where the different worms are. And that's just you can keep track of where they're tunneling underneath. So it's not like some weird surprise when they pop up on you. Then we have our locations. So we're going to have, and they're one-sided. So we have a hospital. I'll actually do this. At the hospital, lets you heal your characters. And you start with 3 to begin with. And there's a big variety. Each one has special abilities. We'll look at them. The state police, which lets you get some weapons. We have the general store, which lets you get an item. The motel, which just lets you get an extra victory point. And the government facility, which gets you bounties. So, I mean, you could just keep dropping everything off at the weapon shop, and you get a bunch more victory points for taking out the different worms. versus just dropping off eggs, or you could just work on dropping off eggs. Just kind of neat. You get your different options. Let's see what else we have in here. So we're going to have these little player cards. Turn sequences. So this is just, they're one-sided cards. The back side are blue. I'm just going to resolve your... So play a vehicle card on a worm. Resolve the card. Distract. Action. Resolve. Refill hand of 3. Actions. That's what you can do. So each different vehicle will get a different one, and they're going to have the little vehicle printed in the bottom corner. They all do the same thing. It's just an ID marker so you remember which vehicle you are. So here are the little vehicles. So we get a little white car. You get a... If I can find them all. A blue SUV. Depending on who's running around. You're going to get a gray van. Or a green Hummer. Or you're going to get an orange Jeep. And the little indication on the bottom of the card is just to remind you of which one you're playing as. And they're kind of a little bit detailed for what they are, like on the backs and on the tops. Like even the Jeep there has like wraps all the way around. It's kind of got like the little hutch in the back. Hummer's got its window in the back. So yeah, definitely a little cool. I mean, they could have had these been anything. Here are the 2 dice, just one for each, matching each color, 1 through 6. Nothing super spectacular there. So then the last thing we have that's not a card. Oh, we also got a solo rules card. Once we have that player aid, just to remind you for those. Yeah, so last thing we have that's not cards is we have these little miniatures. Standees of the different worms. They don't do anything themselves. They are just kind of aesthetics. They're too big. They're too big to actually play on the board in place of your like number 1 and number 2 tokens. Plus, you can also have multiple tokens of each. You got multiple versions of the same worm out, so it wouldn't really be beneficial either. But it just kind of like you can set them around the board as like an aesthetic of, oh, this is what's attacking us type of thing. Yeah, so kind of unnecessary, but still kind of neat. Alright, we're going to look at the worm cards quick, and then we'll start jumping into like the items and the characters, since the worms are going to be the easiest ones to go through. So, they're going to have these red backs to them. And then to start off, we're going to have 4 different colors. Or 4 different black ones, I should say. Also 4 different colors, but black ones. Now, these are going to say 0, 0. These are just your starter cards. These are the ones you pick out to start with. And their patterns are the same as their regular cards. So like their pattern of where they drop eggs and everything are the same. The numbers though are always different. So every time you get a different number, it might not. This is just supposed to be the starter. So you play these 4 to start with, or more or less depending on how many players you have. And this is just so that way every board starts out the exact same way. So you have Mrs. Tentacles, which has the light blue eggs. The Screamers, which have the red or maroon eggs. The Boomers, which have the orange eggs. And the Blasters, which have the purple eggs. So the Blasters do a cross pattern. The Boomers do a full circle. The Screamer does a horizontal line. And Mrs. Tentacles does an X. So there are 5 different attack patterns. And if we just start looking at these, I'm not going to spend a ton of time. So this is going to be like one version of the Screamer. So he's going to come out. You play this. So after when you first play this one, he's going to start at 5-3, 7 health with a 3 distraction. So this Screamer comes to 5-4, but he has 10 health and 4. So there are differences between each one. And I'm just going to fly through these quick. I'm not going to read off every single one, just because we have the 4 different kinds. This is a bunch of different ones. The other one we haven't looked at yet is the Queen. So the Queen is Big Mama Jama. So she ends up hitting this entire area, which can be a lot of the board. Comes out at 4-3 on this one, has 20 health, 5 distraction, but if you can kill her, you gain 8 points. Otherwise, I think you only gain normally 1 for defeating any of them. But then you can gain more by filling in bounties, basically. But yeah, the Queen's a terror. So you have some more. So just gonna have a lot of these. There's a bunch of them. So this one, it's actually, he's gonna attack horizontally instead of vertically instead of horizontally. So that's the only one I think that's different. Because I don't think you can change the other patterns. Because a circle is always going to be a circle. A cross is always going to be a cross. But the fact that this can sometimes go up and down. And there's the Queen again. So if I compare the 2 queens. So different positions, but all the other stuff is exactly the same. I was just seeing if the eggs were in the same spot. But we have a bunch of each one. And we have another Queen. So we only got 3 of the Queens. They're not going to come up terribly often. But like when I was playing our game, when I was playing my team, we decided to, when we got to the Queen came out, we're like, nope, this is the first thing, like, we need to team up, get, like, plan together to take this Queen out. Like, I get this going to be 8 points for whoever takes it out, extra points. But we were also on the fact is, if this sits out here too long, it's going to keep dropping so much rubble every time it moves. Or if it attacks us, we're going to die by ourselves, so we have to team up to take it out. But we talked with the other players, we made sure, okay, we have enough points that we should be able to pull this off. So yeah, there's no reason not to team up, like, especially maybe early on, when you don't have a lot of equipment, maybe team up to take out some of these threats. Yeah, one person might gain a couple extra points versus the other one, but it might be more beneficial. So these are your leader cards. What you do is you get 3 of them to begin with. You pick which one starts out. They're your active leader of your crew, and you get their benefit, their ability. And then, as you, after they die, you then get to select a different one. So you kind of got, so they're going to be random. So you know what abilities you're going to get, but then you also got to decide what seems more beneficial for you. So here we have Mystery Businesswoman Celia. Says, any eggs you deliver to the government facility are always worth an additional 1 VP. So she has contact. So here we have Survivalist Lisa, who's adaptable. You may use items on the same turn you acquire them. FBI Agent Laura, unknown motives. When Laura enters play, draw a bounty card and place it face down next to Laura. This is a hidden bounty that only you can complete. The Life Coach Sebastian, who's a guru. Your hand size is 4 cards, gives you some more options. Store owner Will, who's armed. When Will enters play, search the weapon deck for a rifle, take it, and then reshuffle the deck. So then after that, he doesn't do anything else. U.S. Marine Natasha, who's trained. Every weapon that Natasha uses deals 2 additional damage. Homemaker Rebecca. Baking. You can end your turn on the same spot as another player. And it does have a little symbol in the bottom here that has a 1 crossed out. Kind of hard to see. It's sort of faded. It's just saying you can't use this in single player, because obviously if you're playing by yourself, you know. We have Shemp the farm dog, who is Dig. You may clear 2 rubble for 1 action. You can definitely see where some of these would be really helpful, some would be okay, and it might dictate what you're trying to do. We have Dr. Tom, the strategist. You may play an additional vehicle card as a distraction on your turn. Only resolve the distraction arrows on this card. Handyman Merle, Scavenger. When you turn rubble in for an item card, you may look at the top 3 cards of the deck, choose 1, and discard the rest. Graduate Student Patricia, Amateur Cyclist. When you play a 3-cost vehicle, you receive 7 action points to spend instead of 3. So if you play like the bicycle, you can gain 7 actions instead of 3. And I think they only listed it like that instead of saying the bicycle, in case there's expansions or other vehicles that have 3. You have Shepherd Old George, Self-Sacrifice. If a worm attacks Old George, you may choose to kill Old George. If you do, defeat the worm. So that could definitely be incredible. Truck Driver Pam, Big Trucks. When you play a 7 vehicle card, you may move into spaces with rubble. Immediately discard the rubble from the board. So this one, I actually loved playing with this one, because you could just drive straight across the board and clean giant chunks of path out. Yeah, you don't collect any items for getting the rubble, but it makes it easier to get across the board. Government Researcher Carlos is a whistleblower. At the end of your turn, move a target token 2 spaces in any direction. Pottery Maker Alan, Pots. For each egg Alan is carrying, you may gain an additional action point on your turn. And finally, we have Taxi Driver Grady, Streetwise. Gaining an additional action point each turn, may only be used for movement. Also, one thing to keep in mind with all these different cards, like I said, you have 3 of them. So while you're playing, don't be afraid to die. If you have a worm and it can attack you, maybe it might be beneficial. Like, there's 2 worms with white blue eggs and you need a different color, or maybe you have a couple of bounties that have a color egg you don't have. It might be worth trying to attack something if you think you can beat it. If you die, you die. At least then you get one of your other characters. It might be worth sacrificing one of them too if they have a better ability. Like the one guy got you a gun right away. It might be worth sacrificing him to just to be able to draw another card, to get another thing. Oh, I got the rifle right away. Now he doesn't do anything for me. Let me go sacrifice him, get one of my other guys that's going to give me 2 movement points or extra damage. So here's your movement, your vehicle cards. So there's a lot of duplicates in what the cards are. A motorcycle is always only going to have 6 actions. Its ability, move all target tokens 1 space closer than you, are always going to be the same. The only thing that's going to change are your patterns on the bottom. So motorcycles, they rev up, they're loud. So once you play it, it's going to draw everything closer to you. So that could be very beneficial. You could play it and then you could speed away. Or you might find yourself getting attacked. So you have the pickup truck, which is 5. The bicycle, which you've seen, which you play a card face down. So the upside about playing face down, I guess not maybe an upside, but the thing is, so like that one worm I showed had 3 distractions. You played the bicycle. Let's say you played 2 bicycle. You played one other card. You played the bicycle. Now you gotta play a face down distraction. So you play this card face down. Then at the end of the thing, the monster's gonna see, oh, there's 3 distraction cards on there. But the thing is, you don't know what this card does. So you know where the monster went down 1 space and to the right 1 space. But now you gotta flip this over. You know where it's gonna go if you pay attention. But nobody else does. Now, if you play this in the middle of like one of the monsters that has worms as like 5, all of a sudden it gets to the end and like whatever player just played the last card on there, they played the 5th card, and it moved it like they moved it like down 2 spaces. Then you resolve it. All of a sudden, now it's going to move down another 2 spaces. So that's where that bicycle can actually be very tricky. If you can remember what it did, you can remember where it's going to go once that last one initiates, but it can also mess up somebody else's plans. Because it could be something like this. It doesn't move it anywhere either. It just depends on what they play. So we have a 2 movement, which are boots. Which say, when played, discard another vehicle card, gaining additional action points equal to its number value. You may not discard a 7. So you can play this, and then you can discard a card to gain additional action points. So it doesn't give you any of the special abilities. So that's like if I discarded this pickup truck, I gain an extra 5. So basically I use 2 boots. I use boots to get into a vehicle. They don't cause a lot of ruckus. But you get into another vehicle. So I have a pickup truck that moves me up 2. We have the 4, which is a sedan. Move any target token 2 spaces. Boots, bicycles, so our 7's an 18-wheeler. Move the nearest target token to your space. So this doesn't have any distractions because it's immediately going to move something right on top of you. But then you get 7 spaces to move. So, little here, little there, right? Pickup truck, motorcycle, sedan. So again, just kind of like the worms, you're going to run into a bunch of the same cards. It's just little differences. These are the arrows. Like some of them will have 1 arrow. So the motorbikes, I don't think ever have any arrows on them. Everything else kind of does. Here's some with the pickup trucks that have arrows, some don't. And I don't think the 18-wheelers ever have any either. We got a bunch of those. If I had these sorted out, I would have just been like, oh, there's 8 of these. But that's alright. But there's a bunch of different ones. You get lots of options. And you're going to be playing at minimum 1 every turn. But possibly more, depending on if you play the bicycle or the boots. You might gain more. Or if you play some of your item cards also affect these. And 1 more boot. So that's all of our action cards. So there's actually a decent stack of those. Alright. So the last things we're going to have are going to be our specialty cards. So we are going to have items. So have a grenade. Blue with a grenade. And like all the cards are different colors, just so you can tell them apart really quick. Items, which are red. Sorry, purple or blue are weapons, and then the money bag ones, which are gray, are going to be your bounties. And I'm just going to kind of flip through the bounties really quick, so it's just going to be like a delivery card. Deliver to the an orange egg to the government facility, you gain 4. Or it could be a hunt card. Any worm you gain 4. So you defeat any worm while this is out. So purple eggs, just different ones. They're all going to be that. This one has options of 1 of the 2. This one's going to specifically say it has to be a screamer, or a blaster, or a boomer, or any worm. But that's basically what you're going to be. It's either delivering 1 of the different colored eggs to a specific spot, or hunting 1 of the worms. And this is the quickest way to get your points up, because you gotta get to 20. I mean, you could, granted, you could just collect 20 eggs and deliver 10 eggs to the motel and get 1 point each. Or if you had the 1 leader, they'll let you get 1 extra at the police station or government facility, you could do 1 extra there. And you only have to pick up 10 eggs. But the chances are that you're going to get 10 eggs before anybody else gets any of these other things is probably fairly slim. Because you could say by the time you did 1 egg, you dropped it off, even if you got that bonus point and you're at 2, they would only need to complete this one here, pick up 1 egg, drop it off, and they've already gotten 3 points. So they're already 1 ahead. Or if they take out 1 of them worms and they gain 4, or if they drop it off at one of the ones at the motel, they still get an extra point. Yeah, so there's plenty of different stuff. Different ways to go about it. You can do however you want. You can just try and focus on taking out worms. You can just focus on the eggs. You can focus on doing the different missions. You can keep going to the government facility and getting bonuses that way. Alright, so now we're going to look at... Let's see if I can do this. Make it a little bit easier to read. There we go. This should be a little bit easier to read. So now we have our weapon cards. They're going to be vital to taking out worms. So you have a hunting rifle. It says, during a worm attack, discard this card to roll 2 dice. Deal damage equal to the higher of the 2 dice. So we got 2 copies of that. 3. I'm just trying to find out how many different copies we have. So it's like we have 3 copies of that. We also have the pistol, which I saw 3 copies of that one. So discard to gain 1 VP and cause another player to discard a hack item. Or, so basically you're dueling someone else. Or, discard to deal 2 damage to a worm attack. Ooh, we got a 4th one of those. If you want to go a little bit more low tech, we got a pointy stick. You're going to get 1 of those. During a worm attack, discard this card to roll a dice. On a roll a result of 6, the worm is killed. On any other result, gain 1 VP. So this is another way to gain VP, is by doing some of these attacks. You can gain some extra, using some of your cards. So we have some shotguns here. We're going to say, discard during a worm attack. And I see 3 of those. Deal 2 damage if you are 2 spaces away from the target. Deal 4 if you are 1 space. Deal 6 if you share the same space. So this involves lots of good planning. So you can try and get right next to that worm. Again, like the queen is going to probably be the hardest one to take out because it has 20 health versus like 10 or 7. But you also have the greatest chance of hitting it with stuff or having more people help you because it has such a wide range. We have the semi-automatic rifle. I think we have 3 of those. So during a worm attack, discard just to roll 6 dice. For every result 5 or higher, deal 2 damage. So that could be very hit or miss. The opposite end will have a potato gun. Do not discard this weapon when used. During a worm attack, discard an item card from your hand to roll 1 die to deal damage equal to its value. So here you can discard items to gain extra abilities. Or extra damage. We have some grenades. We have a grenade. Which says, during a worm attack, discard to roll a die. On a result of 1 to 3, nothing happens. 4 to 6 deals 7 damage. If that's not enough, we can also play a box of dynamite. Discard during your turn. Immediately resolve any worm attack of your choice. If you are caught in the attack of the worm, deal it 4 damage. So you can basically blow it up, creating sound. We have some military satellite weapons. To start your turn, roll both dice. If a target token is in the resulting coordinates, that worm is killed. If a player pawns there, their leader dies. Discard this card only when you hit something. So this is one that, if I get, I would almost just play right away. There's almost no reason to hold on to it because you're just rolling dice and hoping to see what happens. It hits something great, I get a free kill off that worm. If not, I kill a player, or nothing happens and I just wait around. Alright, so then the final two weapons we have are actually interesting. So we have an incubation ray in 2 copies. On your turn, discard this to gain 1 VP and force all players to roll a die for each egg in their possession. If any player rolls a 5 or higher, discard that egg and their leader dies. So basically you're trying to force these to hatch. It could go against you as well, depending on when you play it. But this could really punish them players that are like trying to collect 3, 4, 5 eggs at a time. And then the last one we have is the Alien Snare Gun. Discard when adjacent to another player to steal an egg of your choice from them. So these are our different weapons. And our final cards, our final things, are going to be the item cards. So we are going to get a lucky hat. It says when you are attacked by a worm on a roll a die. On 1 to 3 your leader dies. 4 to 6 you survive. Keep this card. Discard this card if your leader dies. You merely wear 1 hat at a time. So here we have another hat. We have a white hat. All your weapons deal 2 additional damage. We got 2 copies of that one. We have another white hat. Or a lucky hat, sorry. We have 2 copies of the trucker hat. Sorry, I'm just trying to see. I think that's all I had for those. Yeah, looks like 2 of each. Once per turn, you may move diagonal. That's crazy, especially if you add that to the semi-truck. So you have 2 copies of the black hat. When you gain this card, gaining 1 VP, gain additional VP each time you kill a worm. So again, this should be another quick way to gain, maybe a quicker way to gain some. So these are our different hats. We're going to have some other different interesting items. We have 2 copies of the seismograph. Which is going to say, on your turn, discard this card to play a vehicle face down under any worm. As a distraction, gain 1 VP. We have 2 copies of Suspicious Briefcase. On your turn, discard this card to discard up to 2 cards from the bounty line. Immediately replace them, gain 1 VP. So like I said before, if you're just trying to do the technique of dropping 10 eggs off at the motel, which you gain 1 for the egg, 1 for being at the motel. Getting these items, though, would also help you gain 1 VP a lot quicker, as well as possibly messing up other players. So it might be maybe more beneficial. Instead of trying to drop 10 eggs off there, maybe you might have to only still drop off, you know, a couple of eggs, but you could drop off like 5 eggs and gain 10 points, but drop some off at the other spots, like 5 off at the general store, gain 5 more, and then get 5 items. It might all give you 1 VP as well. And therefore, maybe you're not always trying to run back and forth to one area, or you're getting rerouted by the rubble. Different things. We have 2 copies of the Stink Bomb. On your turn, discard to move to another player's pawn up to 3 spaces. We have a Snowplow, so 2 copies of that. During your turn, discard to move through spaces with rubble. Gain 1 VP. We have some Nitrous, 2 copies of that. On your turn, discard to gain 3 extra action points. Maybe even used after picking up eggs. Normally, picking up eggs ends your turn, so you want to save that to your last action. So you have 5 points. So like spend 1 to move, 1 to pick up some rubble, 2 to move to that spot, 3 to move to the egg, and then pick up the egg. We have some other different ones. You have 2 copies of the Sonic Transmitter. On your turn, discard to move a target 4 spaces in any direction, gain 1 VP. 2 copies of the Worm Pheromone. When moving to a space adjacent to another player, give them this card. The owner of this card must move to the nearest target token 2 spaces close to them at the end of their turn. And then we have 2 copies of the worm trap, which is our final item. On your turn, reveal this card and choose a worm. That worm's token is trapped and cannot be moved by distractions or abilities. Discard this after the worm attacks. That's actually kind of fun, so you can keep the worm from moving around too much. Alright, so that was our last of that. So that would be the end of what we have for the Terror Below. We are going to jump in though right away and look at the expansion pack that you can buy, which is also Kickstarter content. So if you bought the Kickstarter version, or if you see the Kickstarter, you should get this extra expansion already with it. Otherwise, you can go to the Renegade Studios store website and you can buy it through them. They usually offer lots of their Kickstarter exclusives available through their store because they have extra copies, but it might not be around forever. So if you're interested, go pick up both right away. So we're going to jump in and look at that. So the expansion / Kickstarter expansion, it might not be Kickstarter exclusive. It might have been available through the Kickstarter. Got it unlocked that way, but it is the Hidden Cache expansion, which is going to add a bunch of extra little new stuff. Not a ton of brand new content, but enough to keep the game a little interesting. Like, if the game was getting stale, this is not going to be the expansion to be like, oh my gosh, just added a brand new mode which made the game unique. I would almost just recommend, if you really like, if you think you're gonna like this game, or you played it once at a friend's house and you're gonna go buy it, just go buy this expansion. So a little booklet with it, or flap that shows what everything does. I just buy it and just add everything right to the game. So first off, we're gonna have another turn sequence card. So we're getting an extra token. Just like the other ones, it doesn't do anything special. It's just for that player. And it's going to give us a tank. So you get a drive around in a tank. Yeah, again, listen, tank doesn't do anything special. Just someone can drive around a tank instead of one of the little cars. So it just makes that a little bit more fun. So again, it's not going to add... That's the thing I said, this isn't going to add any additional gameplay for the most part. That's why I just recommend buying it right away. Sure, I get 2 wooden dice, which just replace the plastic ones. They don't do anything different, just different set of dice. Also nice if you're playing with multiple players, you can have one side of die on one side of the table, one on the other. But just component upgrades. We get these little wooden target tokens. Just replace the other ones. Kind of nice because they're a little bit beefier, a little bit easier to grab onto than the flat little tiles. Plus a little bit more colorful. Again, just aesthetic to the game. We're also going to get some more light blue eggs. You might be asking, why do I need a different set of light blue eggs? You don't. So here's the original ones, here's the new ones. The difference is these are, I don't know if I can get them to work. They're glow in the dark. I'll see if I can take a video with them after they've been out in the light for a bit. The other thing we're going to get is this worm token. It's just like the little 3D standees. It doesn't do anything. It's just a visual effect to have a giant worm on there. So it's kind of neat. I suppose you could pop it out like, oh, the worm is attacking. Here's my worm attacking. It's kind of like a little bit bigger of a visual. Which you can do with the standees as well. When one worm pops out to actually attack, you can pop that on there just to make the game a little bit more visual. But in it of itself, it doesn't do anything. So far, out of all the content, there's absolutely no reason to buy this expansion, like, other than upgrades. New vehicle, wooden dice tokens, some different glow-in-the-dark eggs. Nothing special there. So now what is actually new is we're going to have a new worm. We have Tinkerbell. And she does not have a... I guess it doesn't have to be a she, but Tinkerbell does not have a starting card. So you have to, like the queen, you just mix them in. But it's going to add a couple of different effects here. So first of all, it does a giant cross. So it's a little bit bigger than the other one. And then it has some of them that do a giant X. So it does two different patterns, which is neat. A little bit more unpredictable. Also, it says randomly place the two different eggs, different colored eggs. So that one's the blue and purple. And this one is the blue and maroon or whatever. This is the purple and orange at different coordinates. So that's what also makes this one really neat, is because now you're getting two eggs, you're getting different patterns, they're going to be in random spots. So we get 5 cards for that. So that's one big thing this adds, is adds another worm, which just makes the game a little bit more fun, a little bit more unpredictability in there. We're going to get one new character, leader. We have the FLGS owner, Honesty, is brick and mortar. It stands for Friendly Local Gaming Store. So when you complete a bounty delivered to the general store, take another turn after your current one is over. So that's actually kind of a fun one. So you get one new leader. Then we're going to get some extra items, and we're going to get one new weapon, which is going to be the Experimental Arm Cannon. During a worm attack, play this card face up near your leader. At any time you are attacked by a worm, you may roll 1 die and deal damage equal to the result. You can only carry 1 worm egg at a time. Discard this when your leader dies. So yeah, you can basically do extra up 1 to 6 damage whenever they attack you. So that's kind of fun there, but you're limited to carrying 1 egg at a time. So it's kind of the downside there. Some of the items we're going to get is we're going to get an energy glove. On your turn, when you are in a space containing a target token, discard this card to gain an egg of that worm's color from the supply. We have Saddle Up. On your turn, play this card to gain 2 VP. Place your player pawn near the nearest target token until the start of your next turn. When the target token moves, you move the same direction and the amount of spaces. So basically you're riding the worm. You're jabbing this into them with the little spike, and you're riding them with them. Then the final thing of the game, which actually does add a little bit new mode, I guess, sort of, is the ramp. It says, on your turn, place this card face up near the board, gain 1 VP. Retrieve the ramp token and place it into any space next to the canyon. Any player ramping the canyon when starting this ramp does not have to roll a die. So here we're going to have a little ramp token. Looks like it's made of a little plywood. Yeah, so that's kind of neat. It just adds in there, so if you get that card, you can place it somewhere on the board, and then you can just ramp the canyon if you're playing that side for free, without having to roll dice and hope that you make it. But yeah, so there's not a ton of extra content. Lots of it's just upgrade stuff. But if you are looking for upgrades, this is definitely a good way to go for that. And it's like, I want to say it's like $20, so it's whether you really want that extra couple of cards or not, it's up to you. It's not going to break the game if you don't get it. But if you're going to want to buy it anyhow, I would buy it right away and just throw it into your first game or your second game or whatever you're playing. Versus hoping that, oh, I played this game 50 times and this isn't going to make you want to play it 51 times if you weren't going to. Alright, I'm going to see if I can get these eggs to glow, and then we will end the video.